Abra Barbia, SABC News, Parliament.
Matriculants are currently writing prelims and finals are coming up. Bursaries are a big thing to be talking about for now for those matriculants who'd like to pursue higher education and need funding. Do you know where to go and what's expected in return should you secure a bursary? Now, Shamiso Chideme is a social investment specialist at Chikulu Social Investment, and she joins us now via Zoom. A very good morning to you, and thank you so much for making the time to speak to us.
Morning. Thanks for having me.
Can you believe we're already talking about the class of 2022? Tell us about this project to highlight where matriculants who want to further their studies can get to source bursaries.
I think now there are a lot of online platforms that are offering bursaries. I know that nowadays there isn't a lot of, those career guidance workshops we used to have back in the day. But normally a lot of organizations are, going online, advertising bursary programs. Some obviously corporates are going into schools to ensure that, they put out pamphlets and flyers in various schools within, rural communities and, townships, any area that they can try and kind of spread the word on, what bursary opportunities are available.
So what are the platforms that are available?
Right now, I think, Anglo-American has got a lot of, bursaries that they're advertising. I know a lot of banking institutions around about this time. So you'll find from August to December, if you go online just to kind of Google what bursary opportunities are available, you'll be able to kind of see the pools of bursaries that are there, on ISFAP, on Anglo, or, the banking sector. So everybody starts to kind of advertise all their opportunities around about now, as you get into August, September, October. This is when, windows start opening, even within, government platforms, and NASFAS as well, so those are the kind of platforms that students can look out for if, different corporates or social investors are not coming to schools. I think students then kind of need to then go online to just check what is available for students.
Of course, Chamiso, in South Africa, we have that reality of students who might not have online access. What happens in this case?
Yeah, I think that's one of the biggest disadvantages that we have. I mean, those are the things that we've tried to encourage social investors around. How do we advertise bursaries that are available to students? Because you'll find a lot of the bursary opportunities are online. You have to go online. We've tried to encourage, corporate social investors to go, down into schools to advertise pamphlets into schools and kind of shine the light on, what about the rural communities that don't have access to online platforms. And unfortunately, I guess those are one of the disadvantages that we have. Some do try and advertise, on the newspapers, local community newspapers, but there's no standard way of how, social investors or government kind of advertise opportunities available to students.
Yeah, it's all good and well as a matriculant to be going out there and applying for bursaries, but there's also, it's a two-way road. There's certain responsibilities on the matriculants. For argument's sake, one has to do well in their academics. How do you impress on this particular part?
Yeah, I think we're also trying to encourage, social investors not to look at your high performance only, because a lot of bursary opportunities obviously prioritize those that are high performers. But what about the ones that didn't pass, about the 80–90% average, but they passed just enough to qualify, to go into university or, into TVET colleges as well. And those are the kind of things that we also need to take into consideration if we want to really integrate our youth and provide them with, long-term economic opportunities, to create this pathway to say, okay, not only for your high performers, but also extend it to the ones that have just passed enough to qualify. And also not only for, your formal university education, but also just opening up the pathway into TVET colleges, and also allowing, people who want to study their diplomas, who want to do boiler making, who want to go into the tourism sectors, to provide them with the opportunities. Otherwise, then we have, this cohort of children who qualify to go into higher education institutions, but there are no bursary opportunities available for them.
I'm really interested in that part where you say you're having conversations with funders and donors about not only focusing on high-performing students. How's that conversation going?
I think this is one of the conversations that we've started to highlight as, a potential pathway into the economy for South Africa, looking at bursary management as one of the leeways we can help to tackle youth unemployment, and for social investors to not only focus on your high performers or people who want to go into university institutions, but to also focus on, students that want to go into TVETs, and, just to provide them with the necessary tools that they require, because at the end of the day, we're trying to create a pathway and to integrate them, into the economy. But if we don't kind of hold this pathway of bursary management and who we offer it to, and, being intentional about who it is that we're targeting. We can't always target high performers. We can't always target, the engineers, the critical skills, but we also need to also target those that want to do trade skills as a potential for them to also get integrated into the economy, and to avoid idleness amongst the youth, with youth unemployment, being high, and just a large percentage of our youth who are just sitting at home. And you'll find that some of them actually did qualify to go into higher education institutions, but were unable to secure NSFAS, and it just ended up just falling idle for them, and they're just sitting at home. So those are the kind of things that we're trying to kind of shine the light on, social investors, as, looking at it as a potential pathway into the economy for the youth.
You touch on the issue of youth unemployment, and anytime this morning, Stats SA will be announcing the latest quarter's unemployment figures. I know your work is in relation to bursaries and just informing young people about the platforms and the opportunities of funding for their studies. But do you engage different stakeholders just in terms of the value chain? It's all good and well to pay for the studies and let them qualify, but then they reach a brick wall at some point when they're not able to perform the skills that they trained for. Do you have those kind of conversations about okay, we're funding the students, how can we ensure that they are employable, get employed, and contribute to the economy?
Yes. So we've tried to encourage social investors about having a holistic bursary program, one that doesn't only just cover the monetary aspect, but another one that also covers the psychosocial support aspect, because a lot of students struggle to integrate into higher education institutions because they come from vulnerable backgrounds and they come from rural communities. So that culture shock and integration into higher education institution, it really impacts on them. So in order to, reduce the dropout rates, to ensure that the academic performance is maintained, psychosocial support is critical, because, it gives the students that human touch, they feel part of a broader, community, with other bursary students, but it also prepares them for work readiness as well, in order for them to be able to integrate into the economy. So it's not only about just giving the financial aspect, but also kind of giving that psychosocial support. And some obviously will need that clinical psychological support in terms of, maybe they've experienced past trauma that kind of impacts on their ability to study. So those are the kind of things that we need to factor in if we're really to offer, that holistic bursary support to students who are coming from, your vulnerable backgrounds and your rural backgrounds as well.
So just South Africa has multiple societal problems. Just in deciding who is worthy of the bursary, do you look at women first? Do you look at age? Do you look at social circumstances? What are the important factors that you look out for in deciding, besides the academics, in offering a bursary?
Obviously, looking at the context of South Africa and youth unemployment being high, and if you actually really go deep into youth unemployment, you find that, those percentages reside from, your rural communities. And within those rural communities, you find out that, most of them have parents that are unemployed, your child-headed households, people who are SASSA grant, dependents, and those kind of, situations. So it's really focusing on the people who are in most need of it, which are your people from your vulnerable backgrounds. And second, in areas where there are no economic opportunities. So these are your rural areas where obviously they might not have access to the necessary platforms in order for them to apply for bursaries. And also, just targeting everyone. It should benefit everyone. It shouldn't be your critical skills, but it should be open to people who, passed, and they're ready to integrate into higher education institutions, but they need the financial resources in order to get there. And then obviously, you can look at the demographics in terms of, male and female. But I think first and foremost, it's just targeting the areas that are in most need of, the bursaries.
We speak about there being about 60,000 bursaries in South Africa. Is it 60,000 bursaries or 60,000 platforms? And do you find that there's a sufficient uptake from matriculants?
I think there's a sufficient uptake, but it's not enough. I mean, looking at the impact of COVID, and how it's affected South Africa in whole, and even unemployment just rising and inflation rising, a lot of people are unable to afford, higher education institution fees. And NSFAS obviously can't take that burden alone. They need that assistance. So you'll find that as much as bursaries are available, they're not available for the full view of, the youth that are actually out there.
Yeah. Well, just in terms of the class of 2022, what tips can you give them about going out there and seeking these bursaries?
I would just encourage them to just, go online. Some schools do have access to computers and Wi-Fi, and, just being intentional with their teachers just to get them to assist them on applying. Should there be no posters or pamphlets, try and utilize whatever facilities that you have within your school to apply for bursaries. And, because there are only very limited bursaries available, just to quickly just to apply. Don't wait for the closing day. As soon as you see the application opening, we just encourage you just to quickly apply. If you have all the necessary documents, just upload them. And, a lot of bursaries now, if you don't have enough data to go online for a large amount of time, they do offer a facility where you can download the application form, fill it in, and email it back. So it's just to tap into actually the connections that you have within your school. If you know that at home, obviously you don't have, those online facilities.
Shamiso, thank you so much for your time this morning. We hope the relevant people are watching and taking this to heart.
Thank you.
That's Shamiso, the Chideme Social Investment Specialist from Chikulukulu Social Investments. Let's take a break. We'll be back in a moment.